With so many people across the country out of work, you would think that any opportunity to create new jobs ought to be welcomed. But that's not always the case. In October 2009, Boeing, one of the world's largest commercial airplane manufacturers with headquarters in Washington state, made plans to open a plant in South Carolina so it could produce its second line of 787 Dreamliners. The process would create thousands of jobs in South Carolina, a right-to-work state, which means workers who don't want to be represented by a union aren't forced to do it. But the Obama administration's National Labor Relations Board, well, they're not happy. It says Boeing's decision to open a second plant in the Palmetto State was in retaliation of a union strike, and they're suing the company to keep the production of all planes in Washington state, where workers have to belong to a union. If the court sides with the Labor Board, it would be a huge hit for South Carolina, a state struggling to lower its high unemployment rates. I'm joined by South Carolina Congressman Joe Wilson, who, along with Governor Nikki Haley and Republican Senators Lindsey Graham and Jim DeMint, is fighting to keep the Boeing plant in their state alive. Congressman, thanks for joining me. Let me ask you, do you think the president is declaring war on a right-to-work state like South Carolina?
Governor, you're right, and sadly this is war on American jobs, and the president is really conducting an irresponsible conduct.
The job numbers from just even a week ago are not that good for the president. 9.1% unemployment. This is 1.1% higher than he said it would ever go if we passed all that stimulus money. States like yours trying to create jobs. So why do you think the president is taking this position through the National Labor Relations Board?
Well, sadly to me, it's a payback to the union leaders, the union bosses. The more union members they have, the more union dues, the more money they can provide to liberal candidates, Governor. And so it's pure politics, but the sad consequence is that American workers lose their jobs.
Now, Congressman, I want to make sure the viewers understand these are not jobs that were being lost in Seattle at the Boeing plant. These were jobs that were in addition to in order to build the Dreamliner. So it's not like somebody has lost their union job in Washington to give them a non-union job in South Carolina.
And you're absolutely correct. In fact, since the plant has been constructed, a 1 million square foot plant in South Carolina, 1,000 new jobs, 2,000 more people have been employed in Washington state. This is the second line of production of 787 Dreamliners for Boeing. This is not moving a line.
You know, I don't know of any time where any president, Democrat or Republican, has ever gotten this involved in the location of a plant. I've seen presidents fight for it to be in the U.S., but I've never seen them fight one state against another. Just out of curiosity, when you and the senators and the governor talk to the president and or the people at the National Labor Relations Board, what kind of answers do they use to justify what they're doing?
Well, this is big government run amok. I've been working on recruiting industry just as you have when you did as governor of Arkansas. We worked to bring BMW to South Carolina, to bring Michelin to South Carolina. We never had intrusion from the federal government, but big government now is attempting to determine where plants are located, and the consequence again is killing jobs, sending jobs overseas.
A lot of the right-to-work states like South Carolina and other southern states that have been able to attract manufacturing, I think sometimes are accused of being union-busting states. But let's talk about the wages. I mean, we're not talking about slave wages. People make really, really good money in these plants. Give me an estimate of what the average worker at the Boeing plant will make in South Carolina.
Well, the classic case really is BMW. At the time that the American automobile industry was in collapse 2 years ago, BMW in South Carolina announced a $750 million expansion to increase the production of cars from 160,000 cars a year to 240,000 cars a year. The workers there are paid $80,000 in pay and benefit. And so it's great work. We've got the right to work laws to protect the workers. We've got great training technical colleges, and we've got great workers who are very productive. That's why Boeing has come to South Carolina.
I think the point you made, Congressman, is very significant. $80,000 to work in the car company. By the way, that was more than I was paid to be governor of Arkansas during most of my tenure, so I should have taken one of those jobs building a BMW in South Carolina. And the cost of living in South Carolina is significantly lower than it might be, let's say, in Detroit or maybe Seattle or places where there is a union wage.
And you're right, and we have a moderate climate, and so the cost of energy is rather low, which is good. That's why we can compete with the rest of the country and the rest of the world. But with big government interfering, as NLRB is doing now, again, the consequence of killing jobs in America and sending them overseas.
Congressman, thanks for being with me. The last thing we need to do is be killing jobs, and we need to be creating some, and I appreciate the efforts that you and others in South Carolina have done to create some in your state, and hope you can keep them. We'll be watching this Tuesday when the NLRB is going to be meeting for their hearing. Thank you for being with me.
Thank you, Governor.
Would you be able to forgive the person who killed your mother and father in cold blood?